Imagine you are the captain of a single, battered cargo ship. You have no fighter escort, no backup, and somewhere out there in the dark Pacific waters, the most powerful naval force in history is hunting you. By mid-1942, Japan controlled an enormous stretch of the Pacific and Southeast Asia. They had taken the Philippines, captured Malaya, and forced the surrender of Singapore, which was supposed to be the unconquerable fortress of the British Empire, in just over a week. The Japanese Imperial Navy operated with terrifying technological and numerical superiority. They commanded the Yamato, the largest battleship ever built, alongside highly coordinated swarms of destroyers, cruisers, and submarines. For any Allied captain operating in these waters, the math was absolute. You were entirely outmanned and outgunned. If a Japanese patrol spotted you, you were dead. This map details the massive geographical distance of Operation Jaywick. The mission required a small team of Australian and British commandos to travel 3,000 miles from Australia to Singapore, sneak into the harbor, and blow up enemy ships. The Japanese maintained a sophisticated surveillance network across this entire route. Rigid, overlapping zones of coastal watchposts and scheduled air reconnaissance flights heavily patrolled the corridor. To run this gauntlet, the Allies chose the SS Krait. She was a 70-foot wooden fishing boat, specifically selected because she looked incredibly old, completely harmless, and entirely unremarkable. Her top speed was exactly 6.5 knots. That is barely faster than a determined jogger. Because the Krait was far too slow to run away and far too weak to fight back, the crew had to embrace a terrifying paradox. Their only option for survival was to sail directly into the light and hide in plain sight. The physical disguise was almost embarrassingly low-tech. The 14 commandos on board stained their skin dark and wore local sarongs. They hung worn nets over the sides and deliberately coated the deck in refuse and rancid fish oil. Commander Ivan Lyon established one absolute rule. If a Japanese vessel approached, no one would fight back. No one would speed up. No one would even change course. Behavioral camouflage was their ultimate weapon. Enemy sailors can detect panic from a distance, so the crew had to perfectly embody the demeanor of a deeply bored, utterly irrelevant fishing crew going about a normal day. They departed Western Australia in September 1943, moving at an agonizingly slow crawl into actively hostile waters. Then came the ultimate test. A Japanese patrol vessel spotted the Krait, altered its course, and moved directly to intercept. Imagine the terror of those 14 men as a warship built specifically to hunt intruders bears down on their wooden boat. They had to suppress every human fight-or-flight instinct, slow their racing hearts, and simply stare back with complete disinterest. The Japanese sailors got close enough to look the commandos in the eye. They evaluated the dirty fishing boat, processed it as completely unremarkable, and turned their warship away. The disguise worked. The Krait eventually anchored near a cluster of islands south of Singapore. A 6-man team deployed into silent, collapsible canvas canoes and paddled directly into one of the most heavily fortified naval bases in the Pacific. Moving quietly through the black water over several nights, the commandos slipped between massive ship holes and attached timed magnetic limpet mines to 7 different Japanese vessels. Hours later, the explosives detonated. The blasts crippled or destroyed nearly 40,000 tons of vital enemy shipping. While the harbor erupted into fiery chaos, the Krait's crew faced a grim reality. They now had to navigate a 3,000-mile journey home at 6.5 knots through a highly alert, enraged enemy fleet. Despite peak Japanese alertness, the low-tech disguise held up under intense, repeated scrutiny. Month after month, Japanese vessels approached, inspected, and moved on. All 14 men returned to Australia alive. How exactly did the most sophisticated surveillance network in the Pacific fail to spot 14 commandos on a wooden boat? This is signal versus noise. The Japanese military actively scanned for a specific threat signal: big ships, steel armor, and fast movement. Because the Krait lacked these, observers looked right at the vessel
and their brains automatically categorized it as irrelevant background noise. This exposes a universal flaw in human cognition. Experts don't see everything in front of them. We only see what our expectations program us to look for.
Operation Jaywick remains a textbook study for military strategy and intelligence because it proves that true deception relies on human psychology. The most effective way to hide something is not to construct a complex, elaborate concealment. It is to engineer something so profoundly ordinary that the human brain immediately forgets it ever saw it.